Today here at Fixed, we are going to be repairing a Samsung Galaxy S8. As you can see, it got broken right there. And if we turn it on, you can see the LCD is broken. You can see the lines going across the screen and the bleeding of the LCD. Alright, here I've got a hot plate. It's pretty hot to the touch. I can only leave my hand there for a certain amount of time. What we're going to do, in order to open this device, we have to get the back off. And to do this, I use this heat plate. Now you can use a blow dryer if you're trying to do this repair by yourself. You can use a heat gun. I prefer this because it distributes the heat properly. So we're going to leave this on here for a few minutes. I don't want it to get too hot, but I want to be able to loosen the adhesive that runs around the back glass of the frame. And we'll get back to that in a minute. Alright, so I think it's sufficiently hot. Yeah, that's pretty warm. That way I can flip this over. And what I like to do is to take this tool. This is a good tool for anyone to have. It's super flexible and super thin. And you want to be very careful, but you want to basically get in between the frame and the glass. And this is kind of tricky. Sometimes you can crack the glass and sometimes you can chip the paint under. But if you work it in slow enough, you can get in there without chipping any paint whatsoever. Alright, I go in about that far. And I'm going to take a plastic, which is also very flexible, but it's going to be a little bit more forgiving. And I'm going to stick this plastic little card under by giving it a little tension, prying up. I'm going to stick it in there and I'm going to try to cut the adhesive. Now this adhesive, we can try to save it or we can replace it. But, you know, I'm take that and I'm going to slide it around. And my whole goal here is to try not to ruin the paint under the glass because it just doesn't look good. I'm going to try to move around the edge here. And you could always apply more heat if you feel like it's not receiving it correctly. Go ahead. Okay, then we're just going to slide up nice and slow. You don't want to crack the glass, but if you've heated it up correctly, it should slide fairly smoothly. You can do this with a playing card. You can do this with a couple other things. You don't want to go in too far as in depth. You don't want to go way in because there are some things that you can hit. But once you get all the way around, there's a couple pieces of adhesive that are in a little bit further, and you can kind of lift the glass and see them. Kind of hard to tell, and you can kind of feel them as well. Yeah, you basically want to cut through those. Separate them. There's those main ones. Work my way up the side here again. Do it at whatever angle feels comfortable to you. And on the back here, there's going to be some more. And we are nearly there. Alright, one thing I will mention, this button on the back, you do have to be kind of careful. The button does have a cable that you need to watch out for. Let me get to it and I'll explain that a little bit more. Hold on. If you can look in there, you can see it. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a tool in there. If you're going to use something metal, you have to be extra careful. And I'm just going to get right on the edge of the connector there and pop it off. Just like that. Nice and easy. And then we can pull that off. Alright. So you don't want to damage this. You can see if you go in too far, you may hit the cable. Some of this adhesive I kind of messed up, so we're going to replace that, get a good seal on there again. We're going to set that aside, and then we're going to move towards removing all the screws. Okay. Alright, so we're going to start removing all these screws. Luckily on the Samsung, they aren't necessarily size specific. Oh, and it's also a good idea to have a mat that is magnetic. This will help you not lose screws. You know, if you you know, because if you drop these, sometimes it can be a pain to find. These ones are a little bit bigger than some like iPhone screws, but it's still, if you drop it on carpet or, you know, you could lose it really easily. So it's a good idea to keep these on a magnet mat. And I'll be back in a minute when I have all these done. Alright, so just finishing up my last screw here. Alright, and then something that a lot of people tend to forget is to pop the SIM card tray. I've seen so many videos where people try to pry on the motherboard and they kind of can't figure out why it isn't coming out. It's because you have this long tray that you need to hold on to. So next we're going to take and we're going to pop off these little plastic pieces. So I like to get in between the frame and find a nice place to wedge in, and you just give it a little bit of lift and it starts to come up really easily. Oh, looks like I didn't take it all the way out. There we go. Alright, this should just pop right out, and down at the bottom the same thing, pops right out. And then the first thing we're going to do before disconnecting anything else is disconnect the battery. Alright, I would not do that with a metal tool if I were you. So yeah, always use either your fingernails or something plastic. I prefer my nails. Alright, next we're going to disconnect the screen. This is the LCD and digitizer connector here. And the nice thing about this display is the connectors down here. On all the other versions, they're up there. We're going to carefully, my nails, I'm going to grab these antennas, lift those off. Alright, you got a little connector right here. Alright, one up here for the volume. Alright, now what we're going to do is I'm going to carefully get my tool in here and try to lift up on the motherboard. Actually, I'm going to disconnect this camera first and fold that back. And we're going to lift the motherboard out. Alright, so go slowly just to make sure you're not missing any of those multiple connectors. Alright, this will fold up, and then you can get your nail and carefully pop away the charge port connector. Alright, so this is what the Samsung Galaxy S8 motherboard looks like. This is the phone. We're going to set that there off to the side. And from here it's going to be pretty straightforward. I need to remove the battery. It is adhered, so what we're going to do is put it back on the heat plate. And this time I'm going to turn on what I have is a suction plate, so it'll hold the phone there so I can't move it. And this will allow me to pry on the battery as well as helping in removing the screen. And as soon as this is warm enough, we'll get back. One thing I would want to mention before I do take the battery out, if you have purchased your own display, it's always a good idea to test it out just to make sure it's working. So that's what we're going to do real quick here. So I'm going to reconnect. I really don't even need to connect that. I just need to set the motherboard back in here. Let me do that real quick. Watch out for the connectors there. Okay, so what I'm going to do right here is take the display, my new display. These are really expensive, so you got to be really careful with them. And I'm going to take the LCD connector here, and I'm going to connect it over top of the other one, which is pretty tricky. Okay, push pause. Alright, now that is down, we are going to connect the battery real quick, and we are going to try powering this on. I may not have the, here it comes. Alright. As you can see, it looks beautiful. I love these displays. You can also see how thin these are. They are so thin. It's unbelievable. Alright, we're gonna let this come all the way on, and I'm gonna test it out real quick just to kind of get an idea if the touch is working. It's kind of hard to see, it's kind of faint,
but
Whoa.
hold on. So it looks really good. All right, that's all I need to test really. I'm gonna just go around and I'm gonna check the screen, make sure that's working great. Looks like everything's working great. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna turn this off. And we're gonna get to taking out the battery. All right, so we are sufficiently warm now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna carefully, because I'm using metal, I'm gonna be extra careful. I'm gonna get in here and I'm gonna start to put a little bit of pressure. And I'm gonna kind of go up the edge and I'm gonna pry on the battery ever so slightly. All right, and what I hope to be able to accomplish here is to be able to lift the battery without tearing into it. Oops. So what I have here is a painting knife for oil painting, and it's super flexible. It's even thinner than this tool. And what I can do with that, I can get in here, and I can slide all the way over to the other side, and I can cut the adhesive on the other side without harming the battery. Just like that. Battery should come out. And if you've done it right, you'll have minimum to no wrinkles on the bottom of the battery. Now I'm going to set that down, let that kind of cool off because it is fairly warm. And right here, you can see the LCD. If we look at the back here, same thing. It says blue on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to separate the back of the LCD from the frame. Now, if this was a good LCD, I would be a lot more cautious than I'm going to be. But because it's broken, I don't really care about it too much. One of the things that I like to use to help me in this process is Goof Off. It's going to help loosen the adhesive in between the LCD and the frame. I'm just going to pour a little bit in here, and I'm going to pour this onto here, and it's going to probably sizzle and fizz a hair. But that allows me to get this thin tool in here and carefully loosen the adhesive by coming back in and out and grabbing that. Up. And one thing that helps is you can use this as a reference. Basically, you can move your tool wherever there's blue on this one. And if you get it just right, you can actually get your tool to slide under and under the flex cable so you can separate down there and all the way over. So that's going to be my goal, is going to be get it all the way around and separate the whole thing. You can actually see the tool. If you come over the frame right here, you can see my tool in there moving under the adhesive there. You'll see it poke up here for a second. There, right under the black. Fairly dry, so I'm going to put a little bit more of this on there. And slide under. And the more you have of that, the easier it is going to slide around. But but I don't think you need to be too excessive with it. Come right over here, you can see right in there, see my tool start to poke out, and I can see that it's going to go under the flux there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that to my advantage, and I'm going to slowly work my way under there, and add a little bit more of this. Work it down, over. Go back to these. This is substantially hot enough that it may warp these plastic cards, but I'm able to use them to my advantage, and you can see it's already sticking out the side here. I'm going to push it out there, come in with the other one, and I'm going to push it to the edge as well. And I'm going to get it to come out side as well. Alright, so we are halfway there. Now I'm going to carefully move up. Now of course, if this wasn't a broken LCD like I stated earlier, I'd be a little bit more cautious at this point, but I don't need to be because it is broken and it is going in the trash when I'm done. So we're going to move all the way across here. This one. Across the top. I'm going to be very careful when I pass over this camera, which you can actually remove. So, but I think I don't know if that's necessary right now. Actually, I'll take it out just to be safe. Out nice and easy like that. Set that aside, and now we're going to move it across the top. Now on the Samsung S7, S7 Edge, S6, S5, you always had to be very cautious of the two buttons on the side of the home button here. But the nice thing is they're kind of built into the LCD, so I don't have to worry about that anymore, which has been really nice to know. So I have left it on here for a little bit longer. Turn the suction off, and I'm going to lift it out. You can see how hot this is if it makes the plastic do that. I'm going to wait for the plastic to kind of cool and get rigid again, and then we're going to use it to help us separate the LCD. Right here you can see that it is almost all the way off. I can move up the display there. Okay, and right here I just need to make sure that I am going beneath that cable. That'll help. I can carefully left here, and I'm going to go down the edge here. I'm going to separate here. I'm going to run across the bottom as well. Now we're going to lift. You will be able to see it's coming off. All right. I'm just being a little cautious with this adhesive because if I do it just right, I might actually be able to reuse it, because I like the curvature that it has. Instead of trying to form my own adhesive, I can just use the factories. And no goof off has touched this adhesive, so I'm not worried about it losing its stickiness. Alright, and there is the LCD removed from the Samsung. And here, I'm just going to flatten out that adhesive. Probably going to end up replacing this if I can't get it to stick again. Adhesive on this slide looks really good. So right now all I really have to worry about is the adhesive up top. And the nice thing is I kind of have a pattern to go off of to replace it. So in removing the LCD, you may end up with some residue that kind of sticks up, and you want the flattest surface you can have for the LCD, because there is new adhesive on here. As you can see here, if I were to put my finger here, you see how sticky it is. There's new adhesive under this blue sticker. So what I'm going to do here is I've got a Q-tip, and I have got alcohol, and I use a Q-tip even though it has fibers that fall off. The fibers that fall off will let me know, hey, there's something still sticky here, and I'll keep scrubbing until no fibers are getting pulled away. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go around and clean up all the areas where the new adhesive is going to go on this frame, because I want it to sit as flat and as flush as possible. And I'm going to avoid the adhesive that I've put around the edges, because I do not want to have it lose its ability to stick. So switch sides to cleaner one, move around, that looks good, a little bit right there, but I think we are nearly there. And I am happy with that. So now we're going to take this. Alright, we know that it's working, so we're going to take this off very carefully. Alright, we are going to put the LCD connector through there, and up at the top we are going to line up the ear speaker with the hole there. Alright, and then at the bottom, we're going to make sure that it also lines, having the LCD come all the way through. And we're just going to kind of massage it into place, and as you can see, it is sealing really nice around that edge. And that's the reason I like to save the adhesive, because and do it such a way using this method so that I can save it, because if you try to put adhesive, this adhesive is thicker than normal adhesives, and so you have to double it up, but doubling it up could make it too thick and you'll have a little gap. A lot of people ran into that issue with the Samsung S6 and S7, the Edge series. You'd see a lot of lifting. So we are going to do that. That looks really good. So now we're going to move to putting it all back together. I'm going to take the camera, I'm going to slide that back into its place here. Alright, now we're going to connect the motherboard here. Alright, we are going to make sure that all of its connectors are out of the way, and that it is going in nice and smoothly. Alright, we are going to connect the volume flex cable here. We're going to connect the camera there. We're going to connect the LCD. So that's nice and solid. We're going to connect this, which is, I believe, part of the antenna. And here are the other antenna cables. that we're also going to connect. Alright, and then once we have this almost all the way put back together, we are going to go through and test every single one of these things that we have disconnected, just to make sure everything still works properly. Alright, next I'm going to slide in the SIM card tray. Alright. And then we're going to put in the battery. Now, as you can see, there was some thin adhesive. It is now junk, so I'm going to remove the rest of that, and we're going to get new adhesive, and we're going to lay that out, and I'll be back in a second after I get all this stuff off. Alright, so we have new adhesive on the battery here. I'm going to take this sticker portion off of each one. And you've noticed what I've done is I've butted them up against each other to create the best seal possible. I think they did a good job in designing the way that this battery is adhered. This time the others are not as sound as this one is. So now we are going to, I like to do this first. I like to connect it first. The reason for that is because if the battery sticks in the wrong spot and it can't reach, it's annoying. It's a good thing that this has tight tolerances. Alright, once that is in, we are going to test it. We're going to turn it on, make sure that during the process of turning it on that we didn't ruin the LCD by putting too much pressure in one spot or the other. Alright, as you can see, everything is still working. Looks like it looks great. Alright, so for now we are going to just turn this back off. And then we're going to put this back together. So first in goes, this is the loudspeaker, alright, and basically it communicates using two pads that are right there, those pins in these pads. So if for some reason you are not getting any sound out of your device, it's most likely because these aren't making connection. Alright, then we are going to take the rest and we are going to let it kind of click in. There's clips throughout the entire edge that allow it to snap in and kind of go under the frame just like that. Now we're gonna do the long tedious part of putting all these screws back. I'll see you when I'm at the finish line. Alright, last screw, nice and tight. And I was looking at this again and I think that the adhesive on it is actually salvageable. I thought it was worse than it was. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go around and I'm just gonna put everything back into place and see if in fact it does need to be replaced. But I think, as you can see, it's flattening out really nicely and it's going to create that seal that every Samsung S8 should have. So I'm going to finish this up. I am fairly satisfied with what we have going on here. Yep, I am satisfied. That is pretty much as good as it's going to get, and yeah, we're going to put that on. So next we're going to connect to this button here on the back. I think this is kind of one of the trickier things to do. You kind of have to work at it a little bit. Well, the way I like to do it is I'll set up the edge so that it shuts just like a door. Alright, and then I'm going to take a set of tweezers And I'm going to get in there and I'm going to carefully find where it connects and get it down. Easier said than done. How about this? Patience is key throughout this entire repair, so an extra minute isn't gonna kill me. And that is on there nice and solid. So I am going to seal this up really well. And as you can see, no damage to the paint around the edges, no cracks in the back, brand new front. Went from this to that. All it needs is a screen protector. Tempered glass preferably, so this doesn't happen again.